If you've ever listened to Apostle Joshua Selman's messages, chances are you've heard the name Ejimi before.
Let me give you a little testimony. Ejimi, come. Let's laugh a little. You see this guy here? I love Ejimi. Let me tell you this. When I started teaching them,
he was someone Apostle Selman frequently mentioned in his sermons. For years, Pastor Ejimi was a key figure in KOINONIA. He wasn't just another member. He was deeply involved, a close associate, a dedicated disciple of the vision. His presence was undeniable. If you agree with me, kindly let me know in the comment section. If you've heard Apostle Selman mention the name Ejimi before, also let me know in the comment section. You see, Pastor Ejimi carries a special grace for finances. His passion for God was visible in everything he did. He was indeed a strong pillar in KOINONIA.
I love Ejimi. Let me tell you this.
So why this video? You see, life is a journey, and sometimes those we work with take different paths. Pastor Ejimi's story is a reminder that change is inevitable, but what truly matters is the impact we leave behind. Just like Paul and Barnabas in Acts 15, though they parted ways, but their ministries continued to bear fruit, showing that God's purpose prevails even when people go their separate ways. So where is Pastor Ejimi? Before we dive into that, let's take a step back, because to truly understand this story, we need to go back to where it all began. In the university campus around 2002 and 2003, on this particular day, Ejimi, a young man full of curiosity, passion, and questions about life, walks into the Fellowship of Christian Students Library. He was just there to borrow a book, nothing more, nothing less. But what he did not know is that this ordinary moment would change the course of his life forever. Across the room, two young men were in a deep conversation, their voices filled with excitement. They were talking about Benihim, the power of God, and the supernatural. One of them, Apostle Joshua Selman, and the other, his very good friend. Ejimi was not particularly interested in their discussion, at least not at first. In fact, his thought was, let me just take my book and get out of here. But life has a funny way of bringing the right people together at the right time. As fate would have it, the other person left the library. Meanwhile, Ejimi needed spiritual guidance. So naturally, he turned to the man who was standing there, Apostle Joshua Selman. And here is the amazing part. Apostle already knew they would be friends, not because someone had introduced them, not because they had mutual interest, but because God had told him. Yes, God had revealed to Apostle that Ejimi would be his friend, but also that he wasn't supposed to initiate the first conversation. It had to happen naturally, and it did. I'm sure you are enjoying this story. Please leave a like on the video. I would really appreciate that. At first, their differences were obvious. Ejimi grew up in Lagos. He had a unique style. He loved wearing boots and mostly had a necklace around his neck, alongside a sweet afro haircut. Meanwhile, he found himself in a strict Christian environment where appearance often defined perception. People often looked at him like, are you sure you are born again? But Apostle Selman was different. He did not try to change Ejimi. Instead, he embraced him for who he was. That was a game changer. Now here is something you need to know about Ejimi. He was obsessed with results. He wanted to see the power of God at work. He wanted the anointing, but he also understood the value of money. At this time, many Christians saw financial discussions as carnal, but Apostle Selman was one of the few who had a balanced perspective. He did not just encourage Ejimi's desire to master money, he went further to make him understand the limitations of wealth as well as its importance. At a particular time, Ejimi had an encounter where God asked him, "What would you do if you had all the money in the world?" He told Apostle Selman about this encounter, and you know Apostle, he gave a very profound response. He said, "You better answer that question, because when God asks you something, he already knows the answer. It's you that needs to figure it out." And then he did something else. He handed Ejimi some books, not just Christian books, but also personal development books. This was a mentor who was not just about prayer and fasting. He also encouraged working with a good vision, discipline, and strategy. All through the years, Ejimi watched Apostle live the principles he preached. He saw a man of vision, a man of commitment, a man who was truly walking with God. And through it all, Apostle Selman kept pushing him, challenging him to grow, to think bigger, and to trust God more. Their friendship was not just about ministry, it was personal. When Pastor Ejimi first met his wife, she was one of Apostle Selman's spiritual daughters. After just 3 days of hanging out with her, Apostle Selman pulled him aside and said, "Ejimi, that lady is my daughter. If you don't have serious plans for her, leave her alone." That was a wake-up call. Apostle Selman was not playing games. He took responsibility for the people God placed under him, even in personal matters. As the years went by, their bond deepened. Apostle Selman talked about Ejimi a lot, and many people who listened to his sermons wondered why. What they did not know was how much Pastor Ejimi cared about him. Apostle Selman was not just his mentor, he was indeed a destiny helper. So where is Pastor Ejimi now? Well, we don't hear Apostle Selman mention him as often as before, and Pastor Ejimi is not frequently seen at KOINONIA these days. As I mentioned earlier, life is a journey, and sometimes those we walk with take different paths. Right now, Pastor Ejimi is focused on his own mission, impacting lives and thriving in his business. He is a chartered wealth manager and one of Africa's top forex coaches. Beyond trading and teaching people how to succeed in the forex market, he's also committed to helping believers understand God's strategies for wealth creation. Pastor Ejimi firmly believes that God desires for us to live a fulfilling life here on earth while advancing His kingdom. He teaches that in God's kingdom, we are blessed to enthrone Christ, empower others, and also enjoy the life He has given us. On the personal side, Pastor Ejimi is happily married to his wonderful wife, and together they are blessed with 2 beautiful children. Pastor Ejimi and Apostle Selman worked together for years, but seasons change. Rather than focusing on speculation, we should focus on the bigger picture, and that is God's will being fulfilled. True kingdom-minded believers understand that the simple goal is to keep advancing God's kingdom wherever He leads. I'm sure you enjoyed this story. Let's talk in the comments. As always, I celebrate you.